Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nemeko Onyeka Obirori. I am here speaking on the wise king versus the foolish king. And the truth is that the difference between the wise king and the foolish king is that the wise king is one king who goes out of his way to empower his people, his subordinates, and allow them the freedom to express themselves, be productive honestly. The foolish and criminal-minded king is only after promoting those who will help him to steal, those who will help him to loot, the incompetent ones who are always ready to grovel at his feet, lick spittle, and make him feel like a deity when he's nothing but an ordinary thief. I have had over 25, 26 years postgraduate career as an investment banker, an oil trader, and agripreneur. And I can tell you, the experiences count for most because I know in the course of my tour of duty, professional duty, I have worked with different kind of bosses. And to the glory of God, 90% of my bosses were actually those who allowed me unfettered access to express myself productively and honestly without interference. The very few 10% were those who actually wanted us to bend the rules, of course, which to the glory of God, some of us resisted. And most of those who want, the very few that wanted us to bend the rule never ended well. I know why I said this thing. Bible talk about the king called Nebuchadnezzar and the king called Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a king in ancient Egypt. Egypt was like the US of today then. Egypt was a very dominant kingdom. The king was very, very dominant and powerful. The king had a dream. And he woke up and he forgot that dream. Very troubling dream. He had a dream. Fattened cows arose from the bank of the river and the very thin cows, and the thin cows swallowed up the fattened cows. And the same thing with fattened corn stalks and the lean corn stalks, and the lean corn stalks ate up the fattened corn stalks. The king called all his astrologers, all the professors, all the wise men in his kingdom, and none of them could even help him remember his dream, talk less of interpreting it. And then while he was still in dilemma, thinking about how to solve this riddle, one of his servants who was in prison with Joseph, the one that was rescued, reminded him, hey, there was this prisoner that was in prison with us, a slave from one land, a distant land that he can't even remember. And he reminded the king of how the guy was able to interpret their dreams when they had dreams in prison and how the dream came to pass. And the Pharaoh said, nobody sitting down until the guy was fetched. Joseph was brought from the prison to the palace. And remember the history of Joseph. He had always been an upright person. He was so upright in his family that his father loved him so much, despite the fact that he was upright. Of course, just like what we have in Nigeria today, when you're upright, when you're talented, when you're gifted, when you want to do things right, a majority of Nigerians will harangue you, they will abuse you, they will execute propaganda, because a majority of us, without our problem, are thieves and rogues and criminals. A majority of us, let us not deceive ourselves. We are quick to call the politicians thieves. We are quick to harass the politicians. The truth is that if people deserve the kind of leadership that they receive or the kind of leader they have, if 75% of Nigerians are truly upright, truly honest, truly principled, there's no way we will have the mass and motley crowd of bandits as political leaders, because these guys did not come from the moon. They are extracts from the midst of us all. Let me not digress. Why Joseph was still a teenager, he was such a very upright and honest guy. Very good. His father loved him and made him coat of many colors, and his brothers hated him. He had a dream. The only way they could snuff out the dream was to plan to kill him. Reuben was able to save him, extricated him from their nets, and they put him into a well, dry well. By the time Reuben came back to rescue him, he had been sold into slavery. At the house of Potiphar, he was so wise and talented that Potiphar entrusted everything into his hand. The wife of Potiphar came to ensnare him. He refused, for being upright and defending the interest and honor of Potiphar. Yet Potiphar jailed him. So while in prison, he still was very upright, that the whole prison leadership acknowledges and accorded him his right of honor. And of course, God's presence was with him. King Pharaoh, being a wise king, invited him. He came. By the wisdom of God, he was able to tell Pharaoh his dream and interpreted that dream. Pharaoh did not say, oh, I am Hausa, I am Igbo, I am Yoruba. This boy is a fake. He is not a graduate. He is not a master's degree holder. He did not school at Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard. Therefore, he will not sit in my palace. Pharaoh was very wise and very committed to understand that for this boy to be able to tell him his dream and interpret it, he would also be able to execute it. And he made him prime minister and placed him ahead of everybody in the citadel. Pharaoh was only greater than Joseph only by the signet that he wore on his fingers as the overall paramount and absolute king. And for 7 years, Joseph gathered and built up an economy that was the most efficient, the most robust, and the most productive. By the time the 7 lean years came about, Egypt was the point of place for everybody to come looking for food. Joseph reigned for 80 years in a strange land. Nebuchadnezzar was a king who conquered Jerusalem, destroyed the whole world, took everybody into slavery and everything, including the smartest of the young men. Then out of the motley crowd of hundreds of thousands of people that were held and taken into captivity, only 4, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, chose to be different. They were excellent, they were diligent, they were accountable. They refused to be corrupted by the system where they operated. And Nebuchadnezzar saw this, and out of the 120 princes made Daniel the chief prince and made the other 3 his assistants. And Nebuchadnezzar prospered until he began to behave like APC and the warlords in APC, when he began to play the kind of criminal, manipulative, propaganda, ethno-religious banditry that they are doing today in Nigeria. He wanted to, he became so vaunted in his ambition. He wanted everybody to begin to worship his molten calf and everything. That was when these 3 young men told him, Kai, Baba, we have respected you, we've served you, we've honored you. But on this one, we are not going to play this APC banditry with you. They told him point blank, I'm not going to play this nonsense with you. And they told him, if we die, we die. And they were thrown into fire. The people that threw them into fire, out of the arrogance of Nebuchadnezzar, all died by the heat of the fire. But yet they survived because the 4th man, Yeshua HaMashiach, showed up. And when Pharaoh saw that these ones could not bend the knee, and yet they were rescued from the furnace, Pharaoh himself knelt down and bowed to that superior God who they serve, and decreed that going forward, everybody must serve the God of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. God is still seeking for people who will stand in the gap. It's easy for us to blame leaders and call out the governors and the president. They are who they are because the majority of us are leg-spittling bandits who want to be on the table with the criminals in power, so that we don't want to say anything that will hurt them. We don't want to tell them the truth. We want to remain politically correct in our harness so that we can eat. And it's not even what we eat. Most of the people that are greedy people, most of the people that you see supporting this band in Nigeria are not actually poor. They can actually live the rest of their life, live 200 years, even if they don't work, without being poor. But greed will not allow them to stand up for what is right. Like Joseph, like Daniel, like Shadrach, like Meshach, like Abednego. He's everywhere. They see you as an outliner when you refuse to bend the knee, when you refuse to kiss the feet of Asherah and Baal. The scripture says in Proverbs 25 verse 5, when you surround a king with wicked and unrighteous men, even if the king wants to rule righteously, he will rule unrighteously. There is something P2P used to say. Peter says, if he's not stealing, his wife is not stealing. Esoloka, his son, is not stealing. His daughter is not. He has only 2 children, a boy and a girl. And his sister and his brother priest, they are not stealing. Corruption is reduced by 50%. And it's true. What you see is that when you have a president, when Jonathan was president, we know what happened. When Buhari was president, people who were ordinary clerks, who were ordinary recharge cashers became dollar billionaires because they were running on rent seeking and patronage. Before you come and see Buhari, before you come and see Jonathan, you drop $100,000, you drop $1 million, you drop this. And they were all doing it. And the leaders were held captive. If these presidents were surrounded by people like Joseph, like Daniel, if Buhari, if Jonathan, if the current president are surrounded by people like Shadrach, Meshach, Daniel, and Abednego, and Joseph, I tell you, they will protect them and do the right things. And when they call leaders, when they call servants, when they call disciples of the king are upright, competent, and talented men, they will protect the king, they will share the king, they will do the right things. And when they are doing that, of course, the king must show example. The king must show example by, first of all, doing the right things. Pharaoh did the right thing. Nebuchadnezzar, and these were Gentile kings. They weren't of the Hebrew stock, but they were smart enough, wise enough to make the right decisions. Do you know what it takes for somebody to be elevated out of a crowd of 220 million people to become president? Do you know what it means out of a crowd of 200 million to become a minister, to become a governor, to become a commissioner, to become a local government chairman, to become a member of National Assembly? If these guys understand the wondrous and awesome responsibilities and the grace God has put into their hand, they will use their services to serve God. Let me tell you, do you know that you can actually make more money doing the right thing than doing the wrong thing? If Nigeria is very secure today, it will be more productive. Why will we spend $15 billion doing 700-kilometer coastal road that leads to nowhere? When they spend $15 billion, we do over 2,000 kilometers of double-lane standard gauge rail network that links all the way from Kano down crossing Abuja to Lagos to Ijebu-Ode to Ore. Crossing all the way to Benin to Warri, to Port Harcourt, to Aba, to Onitsha, to Asaba. That will give us more mileage. The same amount of money, 15 billion, we are going to waste. And they can still steal the money doing the right thing. They can still steal the right money doing the right thing. There are many things we can do. I shared with a governor in the north and a governor in the south. Today in Nigeria, we can do 1 million hectares of date palm plantation that can give us $29 to $30 billion annually revenue over the next 5 years under a mission community, diaspora, private public partner that is owned by the government. I showed the governor how he can even own it 50%. But you will still raise revenue and create massive job. I have shown the governors of the south how we can create, the governors of the south and the middle belt, how we can create over 500 to 700,000 hectares of new palm plantation, of new cocoa plantation, of new of new moringa plantations, and with the processing factories, over 4,000 processing factories that will create and catalyze over $180 billion revenue and create more than 20 million jobs. The governors can own it 40% if they want and make all the money. In fact, all the monies that they will steal in 8 years, they can make it every year for the rest of their life, creating value. But some of these guys are not thinking. They have surrounded themselves with unthinking, criminal-minded rogues. All they want is to grab. Oh, we want to see governor, bring $20,000. You want to see president, you want to see so. They are busy creating roadblocks. They are busy because they are not talented, they are not gifted, they have no skills, they have no conscience. All they want is to steal, to loot, and to steal like the devil, their father. We are quick. I run a very small shop. I know the difficulties and challenges I face controlling the very few people. Then imagine a president that is controlling 1,300 MDAs with over 2 million people. The truth is that the only way he can function very well is to have assistants and aides, ministers, and people who are very patriotic, who are very knowledgeable, who are very passionate, who will help him. But of course, in Nigeria, 90% of us are criminally minded. Don't deceive yourself, including the clergy, those who run the religious commercial centers people attend to, on both sides of the aisle. It is very difficult for you to see a decent, honest, and patriotic Nigerian across both from the political, religious, and business space. It's like what we saw in Sodom and Gomorrah when the angel of God wanted to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So Abraham had to, first of all, intervene Abraham begged God. God said, if I see 50, I will spare the city. He even came down to 5. God could not even see 5. Lot and his wife and 2 daughters were saved out of the grace and their connection with Abraham. And yet Lot's wife, in the lustings for the wickedness in Sodom, turned back and turned into pillar of salt. Can you think? See, this country is a place where you can make billions doing the right things. There's no country that has the kind of opportunity that we have in Nigeria. These political bandits can actually make more money doing the right thing. But their minds and their brains are not wired to do the right thing because they are of the devil. May God have mercy on us.